I think it's safe to say that change is on my agenda. Change for good. And I embrace that and I enjoy that change. I don't fear it. That's the bit that excites me.
Look at this photograph from 2005. Prince William, standing beside his father, wearing a polite smile, a dutiful son at a royal wedding. Calm, supportive, composed. The truth? That smile was a mask. Behind it, a private rebellion simmered. William and his brother begged their father not to marry Camilla, and he did it anyway. So here's the question. How much of the monarchy we see is really performance? And how much is a carefully calculated power play? Fast forward to today, and the story is no longer about obedience. It's about power, legacy, and a quiet revolution unfolding inside Buckingham Palace. Prince William is no longer waiting in the wings. He is quietly shaping the future of the crown. And every move he makes could redefine the monarchy as we know it. This is not gossip. This is strategy. This is history in motion. And it begins with a wound that never healed the boy who watched everything. You cannot understand who William is becoming without understanding what William survived. And what he survived was not just the loss of his mother. It was the slow, public, excruciating unraveling of his family that started years before Diana died and continued long after she was buried. The affair between Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles began in the mid-1980s.
These days, Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles are stalwarts of the royal family, smiling and waving at weddings and birth announcements,
while both of them were still married to other people. It was one of the worst-kept secrets in British high society, but it became a full-blown national scandal in 1993 when the Camilla-gate tapes leaked to the press. These were secretly recorded phone conversations between Charles and Camilla that were so intimate, so explicit, that they shocked the entire country. Newspapers ran the transcripts. Television programs debated them. The public recoiled. But for William and Harry, who were 11 and 9 years old at the time, this was not a tabloid story. This was their father. This was their family. And they were living inside the wreckage of it in real time. Princess Diana spoke about the devastation openly during her famous 1995 Panorama interview with Martin Bashir. She looked into the camera and said that there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
Do you think Mrs. Parker Bowles was a factor in the breakdown of your marriage?
Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
That single sentence became one of the most quoted lines in royal history. But what the public did not see was what was happening behind the cameras. Diana was battling depression. She was struggling with self-harm. She was emotionally collapsing under the weight of a marriage that had been hollowed out from the inside. And her sons watched it all. They saw their mother crying. They saw the headlines. They saw the photographers outside the gates every single morning. They were children living in the middle of an adult catastrophe, and neither of them has ever fully recovered from it. Royal biographer Christopher Anderson, who wrote The King, The Life of Charles III, has documented how William and Harry responded to the situation. According to Anderson, both brothers deeply distrusted Camilla from the very beginning. They resented her presence. They were devoted to their mother. And they viewed Camilla as the person most responsible for destroying her happiness. Anderson reported that when Camilla first met William at Clarence House, she was shaking like a leaf and needed a stiff drink afterward because she was so nervous about facing Diana's son. And she had good reason to be nervous, because William never forgot what she did. He was polite. He was controlled. He played the role that was expected of him. But being polite is not the same as forgiving. And in the British royal family, politeness can hide decades of carefully managed resentment. The boy who watched everything is now a man with a very long memory and a very clear sense of who owes what. The Deputy King. Here is something that most people outside the royal world do not fully appreciate. William is not sitting around waiting for his father to die so he can become king. He is already governing. Charles has been handing him real authority, piece by piece, year by year, in a transfer of power that is happening right now in plain sight. The most significant move came at the end of 2025, when King Charles officially named William and Princess Catherine as grantors of royal warrants, effective spring 2026. Now, that might sound like a ceremonial title, but it is anything but. A royal warrant is the gold standard of endorsements in the British business world. It allows approved brands to display the royal coat of arms on their products, signaling that they supply the royal household. This power was previously held exclusively by King Charles and Queen Camilla. By extending it to William and Catherine, Charles effectively brought his son into the financial and commercial nerve center of the monarchy. Royal journalist Richard Palmer described the warrant system as one of the most prestigious endorsement mechanisms in the world, and William now holds a share of that power. But the warrants are just one piece of a much larger pattern. In November 2025, William traveled to Belém, Brazil, to represent King Charles at the COP30 World Leaders Summit on climate change. He was not there as the Prince of Wales making a guest appearance.
Yes, there is the Prime Minister and the heir to the throne, the Prince of Wales, arriving in Belém in Brazil, where COP30 is starting today.
He was there acting as a deputy sovereign, carrying the authority of the crown on the international stage. He met with heads of state. He delivered remarks on behalf of the United Kingdom. He operated at a level that goes far beyond what is typically expected of an heir-in-waiting. And he did it naturally, comfortably, like a man who has been rehearsing for this role his entire life. Because he has. Behind the scenes, the planning is even more deliberate. The Times reported that William's team has been preparing a detailed blueprint for his future reign. And he wants to simplify the coronation ceremony to reflect modern British values. He has told close friends that he is acutely aware of how much the monarchy costs the public, and that he intends to make the institution smaller, more focused, and more accountable. Jason Knauf, the CEO of Williams Earthshot Prize,
I sat under this oak tree 5 years ago, soon after we launched the Earthshot Prize. The planet, the only home we have, needed our help.
confirmed that William has been thinking about the shape of his future reign for years. He described William's approach as evolutionary, not revolutionary. That distinction matters. William is not planning to tear the monarchy apart. He is planning to quietly, methodically rebuild it in his own image. And in that rebuilding, every role, every title, every family connection will be examined, including the ones that exist only because of Camilla. So the cold constitutional truth. Now here is where the story moves from palace politics into hard legal reality. And this is the part that should genuinely concern Camilla and everyone connected to her. Because the protections she currently enjoys are not permanent. They are conditional. And the condition is Charles. Right now, Camilla holds the title of Queen Consort. That title carries enormous institutional weight. She has a full staff. She has a schedule packed with official royal engagements. She serves as patron or president of over 90 charities. She has access to Clarence House, to the royal household, and to the entire infrastructure of the monarchy. She holds real, tangible power. But all of that power flows from one source: her marriage to the reigning king. The moment Charles dies, the legal landscape shifts completely. Constitutionally, when the king dies, Camilla's title changes from Queen Consort to Queen Dowager. That is the formal designation for the widow of a king. And as Royal Central has documented in detail, Queen Dowager is a title with almost no institutional power behind it. There is no constitutional role. There are no mandatory duties. There is no guaranteed residence. Everything, and I mean everything, falls to the discretion of the new monarch. In this case, William. Let that sink in for a moment. William will decide whether Camilla stays at Clarence House or returns to her private home, Ray Mill House in Wiltshire, where she already spends much of her personal time. Royal insiders have acknowledged that staff within Camilla's household already accept that full-time residence at Ray Mill is a real possibility under a King William reign. He will decide whether she continues as a working royal, attending public events, and representing the crown, or whether she is offered a much lighter schedule that gradually phases her out of public life. He will decide the scope of her charity work, her public visibility, and her access to the royal infrastructure. As Joe Little, managing editor of Majesty magazine, put it plainly, the new King William will call all the shots. Every aspect of her public and private life will be reviewed. And Camilla knows this. Reports suggest she has told close friends that she loves her role and wants Charles to remain king for as long as possible. One insider described her as deeply reluctant to give up the position she has spent decades working toward. But reluctance does not change constitutional law. When Charles passes, so does the source of her authority. And the man who replaces him is the same boy who once begged his father not to marry her. That is not a comfortable position to be in. Outside the circle. When people talk about William and Camilla, they tend to focus on the two of them. But there is a much wider circle that stands to lose access when the crown changes hands. And that circle is the Parker Bowles family. Camilla has 2 children from her first marriage to Andrew Parker Bowles. Tom Parker Bowles,
Queen Camilla's children are skipping out on Christmas with the royals this year. The mom of 2 won't be bringing in the holidays with all her children.
Who has built a successful career as a food writer and critic, and Laura Lopes, an art gallery curator who has kept a lower public profile. Neither of them holds a royal title. They are not royals, but their proximity to Camilla has given them something that no title could buy: access. They attend state events. They appear at royal functions. They move through spaces that are reserved for people within the inner circle of the monarchy. That access exists because Camilla is queen. When Camilla is no longer queen, the basis for that access disappears. Then there is Camilla's sister, Annabel Elliot, who has served as an informal advisor within Camilla's household and has been the subject of questions about how she may have benefited from royal arrangements. These are exactly the kinds of relationships that William's team will scrutinize. And we know this because William has already set a precedent. When forming his own household, he reportedly removed staff members who had connections to Camilla's circle and replaced them with his own people. Christopher Anderson noted that this was not a personal snub, but a strategic decision. William wants his own team. He wants loyalty that runs to him, not to the previous generation. That tells you everything about how he intends to operate. William's vision for the monarchy has been described by multiple sources as lean, focused, and modern. He wants fewer royals, not more. He wants every person within the institution to justify their presence through meaningful work, not through inherited connections. He admired the way his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth, earned public trust through decades of quiet consistency. He watched his father inherit a monarchy that struggled to justify its costs during a period of economic hardship, and he has drawn clear lessons from both. A smaller monarchy does not have room for extended family members without official roles. There are no seats at the table for former stepchildren at state events. There are no honorary positions for people whose only connection to the crown runs through a personal relationship with the previous queen. And this is not cruelty. This is clarity. Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopes are accomplished people who have built successful private lives. But they are not royals, and under William's reign, they will not be treated as royals. The invitations that once came automatically will start to require special requests. The special requests will eventually stop being granted. The doors will not be slammed shut publicly. They will close slowly, quietly, one at a time, when the way everything happens in the British royal family. No press release, no announcement, just a gradual tightening of the circle until the people outside it realize they are no longer inside. Diana learned this lesson. Prince Andrew learned it. Harry learned it the hardest of all. The Parker Bowles family may be next. And the painful truth is that they will not be removed because William dislikes them. They will be removed because in his vision of the monarchy, there is simply no role for them to play. The crown waits. And when it finally rests on William's head, the palace he inherits will be familiar only in form. The alliances, the hierarchies, the quiet agreements of decades, all of it will be tested, reshaped, and in some cases quietly erased. Titles that once seemed permanent will be fragile. Privileges that felt guaranteed will become negotiable. Every decision he makes will ripple through the corridors of power, and every gesture will carry the weight of memory, of loss, of lessons learned from generations before him. This is not a story of revenge. It is a story of discipline, of clarity, and of strategy. A reign built not on spectacle, but on the subtle, inexorable recalibration of authority. Camilla, the Parker Bowles family, even the courtiers who assumed their positions were untouchable. Nothing will remain untouched by the quiet force of a monarch who has spent decades preparing for this moment. And that brings us to the question no one outside those walls can answer. When the crown lands on William's head, how far will he go to shape a monarchy in his image? And who will be left standing in the wake of that transformation? The palace doors are open now. Soon they will close. And what unfolds behind them may define the future of the British crown for generations. The story is far from over, and the next chapter will be written in whispers, in silences, and in choices the world will only see after they are made.